Thank you, sir. In the context of international efforts to arrive at a settlement to the Western Sahara question, we wish to reaffirm the well-known and the consistent position that has been adopted by the Russian Federation. We advocate a balanced and impartial approach on this question. We support direct talks between Morocco and the Polisario Frente. As a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council and a participant in the group of friends, we are continuing to engage in active contacts with all stakeholders. We're engaging with the Moroccans, with members of the Polisario Front, with the Algerians and the Mauritanians, with all states. Russia is bound with all of these states by historically strong, friendly relations, which we value. We believe that only mutually acceptable solution on the basis of the relevant Security Council resolutions through procedures and the relevant principles of the United Nations Charter, that this is the viable resilient way forward. We support the activities of the United Nations Mission for the Referendum in Western Sahara, MINURSO, which includes a body of Russian military observers. This plays an important stabilizing role in the region. Its effective efforts help to create conducive and propitious conditions for progress on Western Sahara settlement. We welcome the efforts of the former president of Mr. Köhler, who unfortunately had to resign as a personal envoy of the Secretary General. He has made a great contribution towards efforts in the country. We are awaiting the appointment of the new personal envoy and progress in conduct of a new round of talks between the parties to Western Saharan settlement with the participation of neighboring countries. We advocate the inclusion of all invited to engage in constructive dialogue without preconditions, with a focus on arriving at mutual acceptable solutions. We acknowledge the ongoing need to implement those objectives set out in the mission's mandate. At the same time, we view as misguided attempts that are taking place to predetermine the relevant resolution and to predetermine avenues for negotiations that are being held under the aegis of the United Nations, or to change previously agreed upon approaches that have been inscribed in Security Council resolutions which we previously adopted. Unfortunately, in recent years, in the resolution which extends the mandate of the UN mission, this has undergone amendments which, in our view, undermine the impartial and unbiased approach of the Security Council. It is not acceptable to dilute previously agreed upon parameters, which, inter alia, set out the blueprint for the settlement and provide for a way to achieve a mutually acceptable solution which guarantees self-determination to the Western Saharan peoples, and this in line with procedures and the relevant purposes and principles of the UN Charter. This arbitrary intervention is something which we did not consent to in recent years, and we could not support this approach today either. Undermining the core principles of a settlement and supplanting them with general words about the need to adhere to realistic approaches or to embrace compromise gives rise to vagueness and undermines trust in our efforts and tars prospects for the political process. Russia views as Russia will continue to be an impartial, balanced player on Western Saharan settlement. We will continue to uphold contacts with all parties. We will undertake proactive efforts in support of negotiations with the understanding that the parties themselves will formulate solutions that will reflect regional security and stability issues. We cannot allow a vacuum in the political process and the lack of a settlement to this problem for this to be capitalized on by various extremist forces. This can potentially have an adverse impact on the military political situation throughout the region. In order to avoid this scenario, there is an urgent need to consolidate the position of external players. Thank you for your attention.